Rick was a typical representative of the golden youth. But that's only at first glance. A nice apartment, an expensive car, a fashionable haircut, and an unconventional look sparked many rumors. However, as soon as he arrived at work, a complete transformation took place. Of all the mentioned attributes, only the haircut remained, and even that was often hidden under a doctor's cap. Yes, that's right. Rick was the head of the pediatric department in a large multi-profile hospital. The first shock for his parents was the profession their son chose. Considering his not entirely calm and exemplary youth, the choice was more than strange. But they reasoned like this: whatever the child indulges in, as long as it doesn't lead to anything serious. And they weren't ready to lose their beloved only son. For a year, they watched Rick study, wondering when he would get tired of it. He didn't. Graduating with honors from the first year, their son went to vacation with his uncle abroad. He returned from there with shining eyes. "Dad, you can't imagine the level of medicine there. My uncle arranged for me to spend a few days in the pediatric department. It's amazing. Someday, I'll become such a super doctor." The parents exchanged looks again. Could a person change so much in one moment? Then the father said, "If you stick with it for a second year, I'll send you to study abroad. My son should get the best education." He had to keep his word. Rick returned with a diploma, 1,000 ideas, and a great desire to cure all the children in the world. During a festive dinner, where several potential brides disguised as friends' children were invited, the father made Rick an offer. "Son, I respect your opinion. I'm immensely pleased that a doctor has appeared in our family. But you understand that you can't work in a regular hospital, right?" Rick, who was engaged in a conversation with one of the girls, looked at his father with interest. "Very interesting, and why not?" "Well, first of all, you won't earn anything there. Secondly, why bother with all kinds of children? They take everyone there, and believe me, there are much more from troubled families. Any normal parent would send their child to a normal hospital." Rick smirked. "Dad, I will work in a regular hospital. Firstly, because that's where you can develop in different directions. And children are not to blame for what kind of parents they have." For the first time, his father didn't insist on his opinion, and Rick spoke with a smirk as the interest in the eyes of the invited girls faded. For almost 2 years, he worked, you could say, at the forefront. Well, mostly in the emergency room. He handled all kinds of children. And the chief physician of the hospital told him, "Until you learn not to let the pain of children pass through you, you won't become a good doctor. A doctor must have a cold mind to make the right diagnosis." Now Rick understood what they told him back then. At first, he wanted to cry every time they brought in a seriously ill child. But then he managed to pull himself together. After all, in such a state, it's impossible to bandage or administer a proper injection. Now he was also worried, but he didn't let his soul relax. Just 3 months ago, the chief physician called him to his office. "Have a seat, Rick." Rick sat down. The chief doctor of the hospital was known to be a fair but quite tough person. Often, those who entered his office hoping for praise left unemployed. Rick now tried to remember what mistake he might have made. Well, there was nothing serious, as far as he could recall. "Rick, how do you like it here?" "Everything is good, Lucas. I like everything, and everything suits me." The elderly man smiled. "You're the first person in the last few years to say that. Usually, everyone and everything is not quite right. Someone doesn't like the salary, someone doesn't like the schedule. I'm fine with everything. I've heard about your successes, taking extra shifts beyond your regular ones. In general, nothing but positive reviews. You know, when I hired you, I was sure that within a month, you would run away. I even made a bet with one of the heads, but I lost. So, to the point, the head of your department is retiring, and we need someone who can not only manage the department, but also be a good doctor. I went through everyone, and I am confident that no one but you can handle this role. Honestly, Rick was taken aback. Becoming a head at the age of 30 is quite good, but the thing is, he didn't consider himself the best. There were doctors who worked better than him and, of course, more experienced. I've already signed the order, so starting from tomorrow, come straight to your office. They'll change the nameplate today. Since then, not much time has passed. Rick felt like he had always been the head here. At first, his father didn't stop trying to persuade him to move to a private clinic. But when his son became the head, he sighed and said, "If you say you need it there, I'll become a sponsor for your department." Rick hugged his father tightly. "Dad, honestly, I need everything. But I'll be grateful for any help." The department soon became exemplary, the best. Now even parents of the most precious offspring thought about where to take their child, to a private clinic or here. Although there wasn't much to be surprised about. Rick's father was a man of his word, and soon the department had not only new equipment but also good repairs and even a huge plasma screen in the game room. However, doctors in regular work were driven by vocation, while in a private clinic, the offspring of wealthy fathers worked, who obtained their education for money. It was spring outside. Rick rushed out earlier than he usually did, realizing once again that morning calls from his mother were invigorating, no less than a cold shower. The song was old, "Dear son, you're over 30, and you're still not married." Then came long enumerations of those who already have grandchildren, then those who already have children. And finally, those who have found their better half, at least. Rick had none of the above. And his mother questioned, "What's wrong with you, son?" He couldn't tell his mother that all these talks simply annoyed him. So he patiently listened, sometimes showing signs of life. Rick had girlfriends. An enviable groom, well off, intelligent. But if the relationship went beyond just spending a few nights together, everyone started making plans on how he would quit the hospital, open his private clinic. Rick sincerely didn't understand why he should do that. He loves his job and has no desire to change it for something else. Understanding each other immediately ended, and another number was deleted from the phone book. He even had a little quarrel with the latest one named Arya. She was a very bright, striking brunette, spoiled by male attention. Knowing exactly what she wanted from life. At that moment, she wanted to become Rick's wife. When he realized that Arya was slowly but surely moving her things to him, he immediately broke up with her. But the girl didn't calm down. Rick never understood when she managed to make spare keys, but a week later, when he came home, he found Arya welcoming him as if she owned the place. How angry he was. He had planned to watch football on TV that evening, but he had to get rid of the intrusive lady and then change the lock on the front door. Rick parked his car. There were few cars. As always, he was one of the first. "Rick." He turned around. John was standing not far from the car. "I see you're an early bird. Don't like to come just in time?" He really didn't like it. Before going on rounds, he always questioned the nurses about what happened overnight, who among the children slept poorly, who ate poorly for dinner, who cried and begged to see their mom. The nurses in his department were wonderful. And if there were those who weren't interested in how a child slept at night, they immediately left his department. "Good morning, Lucas." The early bird catches the worm. The chief doctor laughed. I heard. Rick, it seems that God Himself sent you to me. Something happened? Well, I can't say that something happened, but I really need your help. Yesterday, a friend called me and asked to help his niece. She came from some rural area and has been studying to be a doctor for 3 years now. Well, as you understand, a pediatrician. My friend says that the girl is very smart, studies seriously, not wasting any time. She really wants to be independent. Her uncle tries to help her financially, of course, but not only does she live in a dormitory, she also refuses any assistance. The only thing she asked her uncle for during this time is to find her a part-time job. On weekends until the end of the year, and at night. In the summer, any schedule. I wanted to ask you to find a place in your department. Lucas, this is like a godsend to me. You know, in my department, it's all young girls. Spring has begun, everyone is taking weekends off, requesting leave, and there's no one to replace them. Send her to me, and we'll talk. I think everything will work out. Thank you so much for this. My friend is an old one, we've been friends since childhood. Refusing him seems impossible, and I don't understand how to help. Then someone will have to be shifted. No need to move anyone, the girls will be very happy. He walked through the department, peeked into the room of those who had just been admitted yesterday. He reassured a crying girl. She had been there 3 times already, but still couldn't get used to being without her mom. Then he returned to his office to prepare for rounds. Almost immediately, someone knocked on the door. Yes, come in. A marvelous creature appeared in the office because he couldn't find another name for this phenomenon. The girl was not tall, you couldn't say she was plump, but everything was in its place. But that wasn't the main thing. The girl had a pile of fiery red hair on her head. Of course, they were tied in a braid, but even he could see how the hair wanted to break free. In combination with bright green eyes and plump, very enticing lips, it was simply stunning. Hello, I was sent by Lucas. At that moment, the girl blushed heavily. Rick looked at her with surprised eyes. He even forgot that he needed to speak. He coughed a couple of times to organize his thoughts. And then he spoke. Yes. We talked to him this morning. I didn't think you'd be here so soon. The girl smiled, showing a row of white teeth for a moment. I live very close by. Rick wanted to hit himself on the forehead. What an idiot. He knew that the girl lived in a dormitory from the institute, and it was literally a few houses from the hospital. He looked at his watch. So, now I have rounds. If you want, you can come with me. And then we'll talk about work. Oh, I'd love to. What's your name, by the way? Rick smiled, watching as the girl pulled a gown out of her bag and buttoned it up. She shivered, raised her head to him, and suddenly burst into laughter. I'm sorry, I always forget to introduce myself. My name is Stacy. I'm Rick. He examined the patients, gave orders, talked to the boys and girls. By the end of the rounds, Stacy was looking at him in complete admiration. When they returned to the office, the girl sighed. I will definitely become as good a doctor as you are. And do you consider me a good doctor? Of course. Do you think I came to you just like that? 6 months ago, you treated a girl, she's our neighbor from the village. How much her parents suffered, how many hospitals they visited. She came to you for a completely different reason, and you managed to see everything. She's like a needle now. When her mother calls, she says that the girl's mother grabs her head. They're used to her hardly getting up, she has apathy for everything. Are you talking about Patrice? I remember that girl, whose parents almost killed her due to their ignorance. For some reason, they thought the child needed to drink various herbs, claiming they were rich in vitamins. Our grandparents drank them, so everyone should. For several years, they poisoned the child with infusions that a child's body simply couldn't handle. They even managed to bring these infusions to the hospital. Rick rarely loses his temper, but his patience ran out. He invited the parents into his office, closed the door tightly, and let his emotions out. He not only scolded them thoroughly, but also showed the potential consequences of such vitamins for the child. He, of course, treated Patrice. Apparently, her parents, too, as the girl now felt great. Exactly them. See how small the world is. Patrice's mom says it's like you shook her up. She looks at everything differently now. So, you're also a healer of adult souls. Rick laughed. Well, if you say so. Please, have a seat. I'll call the head nurse, and we'll see how we can arrange your schedule. Leslie was a mature, loud, and professional woman. When she appeared, the nurses straightened up unconsciously, but the woman's face changed dramatically when facing a child. She spoke gently, and her hands became as soft as down. Any child. Whenever she entered the room, crying ceased. Rick was initially cautious about Leslie. He saw how the girls were afraid of her and thought that such relationships hindered work. But one day, they brought a boy on an ambulance. He fell from the playhouse in the yard and apparently broke his leg. He screamed, not letting anyone close. He wriggled so much that they were afraid he would hurt himself even more. His mom was on the way and would arrive in about 30 minutes due to traffic. She was on the phone with the caretaker all the time, who was trying to get the boy to talk to his mom. For about 10 minutes, the entire emergency room was filled with his screams. And then Leslie appeared. Everyone made way for her, even the boy fell silent for a moment, just to catch his breath. But only to recover. At this moment, the head nurse started talking to him, and he stopped throwing a tantrum. They even allowed Leslie to give him an injection. And 5 minutes later, the medicine took effect, and they could finally start the examination. Rick found Leslie later. She was sitting in her office, looking out the window. When he entered, the woman stood up. Should I write a resignation letter? He was initially shocked, but then realized that she simply understood everything, his looks, his dissatisfaction. Now, before going to her, Rick looked into her file. 15 years with the kids, that's a lot. Leslie, I came to apologize. I see I need to talk about what? You are the best pediatric nurse, and I will be very glad if we become friends. For the only time in their entire work together, Rick saw tears in Leslie's eyes. Since then, they became real friends. Gradually, Rick realized that she managed not only with children so skillfully. Leslie was a true professional, both in paperwork and medications. She always kept everything in order. Leslie, as soon as she found out why she was called, couldn't resist. God heard my prayers. Everyone suddenly needs to go somewhere at night, and everyone has such valid reasons that you don't know how to refuse. Although the reason is one, it's spring outside, and all the nurses are young. The whole department, consider, is held by those who are married. She shifted her attention to Stacy. And you, I assume, are also not married? Stacy shook her head. No, I'm not married. And I won't until I get my diploma. Becoming a doctor is my top priority, and everything else can come later. Rick looked at her with surprise. It turns out she spoke just like him. He was a bachelor and a doctor to the core. Stacy got to work. Leslie diligently reported on how the new nurse was doing. Rick didn't understand why at first, but then it dawned on him that the head nurse thought that Stacy was his protege. He decided to resolve everything right away. He went to her office. "Leslie, may I come in?" "Of course, Rick, come in. If you offer me tea or coffee, I won't be offended." The woman smiled, and Rick noticed that she even seemed to get younger. He immediately thought that he had never been interested in Leslie's age. She was ageless for everyone. "How do you feel about cocoa?" "I always drink only that. I always brew fresh for work, and then in a thermos." "Cocoa? I haven't had it in 1,000 years. I feel positively about it." When the cocoa was poured into the cups, and a plate of sandwiches magically appeared in front of Rick, he began to speak. "Leslie, it seems to me that there has been some misunderstanding between us. Stacy has no relation to me. She is the daughter or niece of a friend of the chief physician. So, you don't need to report to me about her actions. She is entirely at your disposal. You can punish or praise her and everything else." "Rick, I beg you. Did you really think that I don't know anything in our department? Of course, I know that Stacy came to our town from a village, that she is very goal-oriented and all that. But I also see that you like her." "Who? Stacy to me? No, Leslie, you are mistaken. I like slim, tall girls. Besides, he vaguely waved his hand around his hair, her hair color." "Oh no." Leslie laughed again. "Oh, Rick. You don't even know what you like. Slim, tall girls are in fashion, so it seems that you like them. It's like with shoes. You will always love and wear what's in fashion, but at home, you'll happily put on worn-out slippers and think how great it is that no one sees your true love." The analogy was very unusual, and Mark pondered. And something, of course, the senior nurse was right, but not about Stacy. He doesn't like the girl at all. But that doesn't matter. She's not his type, and that's it. But since Leslie cursed him that day, he constantly saw Stacy. Of course, he had seen her before, but now he constantly held his gaze on her. He grudgingly noted that she had a chest that most current girls could only dream of, and her eyes. When he met her gaze, for some reason, he felt embarrassed, shifted his gaze down, stumbled upon her lips, became even more embarrassed by his thoughts, shifted his gaze down again, and things got really bad. Stacy had been working for 2 months. She had become friends with almost all the nurses almost instantly. And Rick had never heard Leslie raise her voice to her. He knew very well that even the chief physician was afraid of the head nurse. Therefore, it was 100% not because the girl came at his recommendation. Apparently, she really did a good job. One summer day, when half of the doctors were on vacation, Rick stayed for night duty. For the first time, he ended up on duty with Stacy. He himself didn't understand whether he was pleased or disappointed. But one thing was clear for sure: he wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. After the evening rounds, Stacy rushed up to him. "Rick, they need you in the emergency room. There's a seriously ill girl." He immediately followed her. In the emergency room, there was a girl of an unnaturally pale color. Not only did she cry constantly, but she also vomited. Next to her was her mother, who never stopped talking for a second. Such a child. Such a child. Always sitting. "You need to watch her. As soon as you turn away, she's up to something." The girl looked at her mother with tearful eyes. "It's not true. I don't do that. It's..." The woman immediately pushed her away. "Be quiet, wretched. Nothing but trouble from you." Rick saw such treatment of children for the first time. Usually, if a mother brought a child, she was more scared than he was. Well, if something serious, how many times have mothers fainted right in the emergency room, and it's not possible to tell everything. Okay, Mom, don't irritate the child. Please leave the office. The woman stared at him with a hateful look. I'm staying here. Wash her stomach, she ate some rubbish. We're going home. Whether you go home or not, I'll decide. Rick turned his gaze to the girl. She looked at her mother in horror, as if she saw a ghost. Stacy gently touched his hand. Rick, can I talk to you for a moment? He had already finished examining the girl and nodded. They left the office. The girl cried, and when her mother couldn't hear, she begged us not to give her back to her. It's written in the documents that she's not her biological daughter. She's the guardian, this woman. Well, or the foster mother. Daddy's waiting outside, quite a character, I tell you. Rick, before returning to the office, looked out the window. Yes, indeed, there was a man standing there, smoking. True, he stood with his back, and Rick couldn't see his face. Okay, we'll figure it all out later. We'll hospitalize the girl until we figure out what caused such a reaction in her body. Until the test results come in, she'll have to stay in the hospital. No, she won't stay here, she'll go home. Listen, Mom. The child needs to spend a few days in the hospital. Do you really not care about how she feels? She's pretending. She's capable of anything, I know her. Come on, Kathy, get up. We're going home. Rick grabbed the woman's hand, which she kept poking the girl in the shoulder incessantly. Calm down, please. If you don't want to leave the child for treatment, I'll have to involve the police and Child Protective Services. You want to leave her in a life-threatening condition. You are foster parents, if I'm not mistaken, right? A little more, and Rick thought the woman was about to attack him with her fists. But she restrained herself. As she walked towards the exit of the office, she hissed. You'll regret this, I'll find a way to get back at you. When she left, the girl looked at him and whispered, Thank you. And then she cried bitterly. Rick turned to Stacy. Accommodate her in the ward. Conduct all the necessary tests. I'll come by in half an hour. Okay, Rick. He called the chief physician and told him about the incident. You see, Lucas, I want to warn you. I have a feeling that this lady will run to complain somewhere. Thanks, Rick, don't worry. I'll handle them, and you do what you think is necessary. He filled out the paperwork. The girl turned out to be 8 years old, but she looked no older than 6. Well, now he could examine her more thoroughly, whether it was poisoning or something serious. Now we'll find out, because while that woman was yelling, he didn't really see anything. He quietly entered the room. It was already getting dark outside, and for some reason, the light in the ward wasn't on. Rick reached for the switch and froze. Stacy was sitting on Katie's bed. She was holding the girl's hand, and they were talking. Or rather, Katie was talking, and Stacy was listening and only occasionally asking questions. Katie was crying. Not everything could be distinguished, but still, Rick understood what she was saying. Please don't give me back. I don't want to, I can't. Daddy Donald constantly beats us if we do something wrong. We come home from school, and they immediately send us to the greenhouses, then to the barn. They have a very large farm, and only the 4 of us work there. Do you know what they feed us? Mom Mia brings expired food from the store. She takes everything, even what's completely moldy. She says it's for the pigs, but she gives the pigs something better, afraid they'll get sick. And we get what's completely spoiled. I never ate, I only ate at school, they feed us for free there. But yesterday, Daddy Donald got drunk, he forced us to eat yogurts with a layer of mold. I felt bad right away, and then he kicked me in the stomach. That's when I fell, and it got worse and worse for me. And in the morning, he insisted that they take me to the hospital because he got scared. Although Mom Mia kept saying that everything would pass. Stacy asked, "You say you're not alone there?" "No, they have 3 more foster children, all girls. Only they're 10 and 11, and I'm the youngest. I don't know why they took me. I can't even lift a bucket of porridge." Rick's hair stood on end. Of course, he had heard similar stories before, but now he had encountered it like this. Finally, he flicked the switch. "Why, girls, are you sitting in the dark?" Stacy smiled. "We were waiting for you, got carried away, and forgot." She jumped up, started preparing Katie for examination, and suddenly froze. Then she raised her bewildered eyes to Rick, who shifted his gaze to the girl's stomach. There was an imprint of a man's boot. He didn't say anything and continued examining the girl. In addition to the footprint, there were many bruises, and the girl was very thin. After half an hour, Lucas was already sitting in his office. He was so outraged that he even reached for a valerian drop. "My granddaughter is 8 years old. I would kill anyone who even pushed her, and here's this. I've already called the police. They should be here any moment." 2 more hours were spent talking to the police. Then a woman from the Child Protective Services arrived, apparently, to get a report on removing the children. When the woman and the police were about to go to the village, she suddenly stopped. "Can I bring the children to you? They need to be examined too." "Of course, we will do everything as required." It was already night outside. Lucas went home, and Stacy and Rick were sitting in his office. He invited the girl to have coffee with him. "Stacy, I think nobody will be able to sleep anyway. Let's have some coffee at least." Stacy said thoughtfully, "I don't understand why they would create such a mess if they can't handle it themselves." "Stacy, how can you not understand? Without foster children, there would be no farm. It's all about profit. Not only do the children work day and night, but the state also pays well for them. And they're not even their own, so there's no pity for them." "But how can that be? They've already lost their families. They should be even more pitied." "Well, Stacy, you think that way because you are human. But these people are not." The police and the woman from Child Protective Services returned in the morning, and it was already daylight. The woman kept repeating, "This is horrible. This is real horror." Then it turned out that the police were initially not allowed in. And when almost the entire village gathered at the gate, the head of the family, previously convicted of crimes against minors, started shooting. One of the police officers pulled Rick aside. "Rick, you need to send the girls for another examination." Rick raised his eyes, and the police officer sighed. "Unfortunately, there are such inhumane people too." All the suspicions of the police officer were confirmed. The man they had taken that night and his wife were taken into custody. It turns out they had previous foster children. 2 girls they took in when they were older ran away as soon as they turned 18. They were located, and they also gave testimony. It also came to light that there was someone in Child Protective Services willing to give a child away for money. Lucas often came to Rick to find out how his patients were feeling and to tell him about the progress of the investigation. Stacy was also brought in for discussions because she was a direct witness to what happened. Lately, Stacy had been spending all her free time with Katie. Rick even saw her several times when she had a day off. Katie got many books, a large stuffed bunny she slept with. Rick stopped resisting and convincing himself that he didn't like Stacy. He did like her, and not just liked her but so much that it took his breath away. Recently, Stacy came to his office. "Rick, when will Katie be discharged?" Well, I think next week. Stacy sat down. I need your help. Honestly, he got scared. Stacy, is something wrong? I don't even know how to tell you. You see, I can't leave Katie. I just can't. You can't imagine how kind and smart she is. Well, I want to adopt her. But I found out everything. I don't have my own place to live. And most importantly, I don't have a husband. I wanted to ask. After all, you probably have more experience. What should I do? Maybe there's a website where I can find a fake husband. I don't know what to do. Stacy started crying, and he watched, not understanding how he didn't notice what a huge heart she had. Rick sat down next to her. Stacy, let's go to a restaurant after work. I invite you. But we need to distract ourselves. Then the solution will come by itself, you'll see. She looked at him in amazement and then shook her head. Okay, I agree. By the end of the evening, Rick realized one truth: he had fallen in love head over heels. The next day he had a day off. In the morning, he went to his parents. He needed someone to talk to, and, of course, no one could understand him better than his parents. His mother immediately started setting the table, hugging him all the time on the way. Rick, how you've changed. We haven't seen you for so long. His father looked pleased at his son. He secretly called the chief doctor, just to chat and ask about his son. Lucas always said that they never had a better specialist. He was proud of Rick, but he couldn't show it. When they sat down at the table, his father asked what was new at work. And Rick told them about what happened. His mother couldn't even eat, she was so upset. We need to buy something for these girls, especially for Katie. They must go through so much. And Stacy is such a smart girl. Dad, can't you use your connections to have Katie given to Stacy? But his father didn't answer. He attentively looked at his son. Rick, I understand that this is not all you wanted to tell us. No, not everything, Dad. You're right, I love Stacy, and I want to propose to her. I understand that in our circles, it's not accepted like this. Probably, I came today to avoid any misunderstanding between us later. I'll still make the proposal. For a while, silence hung over the table. Everything in the house was always decided by the father, so now the mother was looking at him. He was a wealthy man, moved in circles where such a son's act might not be understood. So she was waiting for some words from him. Finally, he raised his head. Mom, why are you sitting there? She asked fearfully. What should I do? What do you mean? Bring Grandma's ring. How else is he going to propose? His mother jumped up from her chair and disappeared into the room. Rick knew that there was such a ring in their family, which was strictly passed down to daughters or brides. He looked at his father. Dad, thank you for understanding me. Rick just flew to work. Today was his shift, but he couldn't wait. Running down the corridor, surprising the entire staff, he burst into Katie's room. As he thought, Stacy was there. They were reading a book with Katie. Both looked at him with surprise. Rick didn't hear that the door behind him had opened. Leslie came to ask what happened. Stacy, marry me. I love you, and I'll try to be a good father to Katie. The senior nurse smiled faintly and closed the door. Well, everything turned out just as she thought. And it didn't matter that she had pushed Stacy to go to Rick for advice, telling the girl that he was almost a computer genius. In fact, she didn't even know if Rick was into social media or not. Stacy stood up. What? How? Mary? Love? Did Leslie tell you everything? What did she tell? Well, I only talked to her. The girl realized she had said too much and fell silent, embarrassed. Then Katie, smiling, said, Rick, Stacy, Leslie said that she loves you. They thought I was asleep, but I heard everything. Stacy flared up, and Rick smiled. Well, everything is falling into place. Here, Stacy, this is the ring that is passed down in our family through the female line. We're going to the registry office tomorrow, and then to my parents. You need to have it on. Otherwise, they won't forgive you. She shyly held out her hand, and Rick put the ring on her. They were helped a lot by that woman from Child Protective Services. When they came to the restaurant after the registry office, she was waiting for them there. Allow me to make the first gift? She approached Katie and handed her a folder with documents. Here, Katie, congratulations on your new mom and dad. And to you, my dear, with a wonderful little girl. Katie rushed to Stacy and Rick, hugging both of them. Rick lifted her up. Right next to them were Stacy and Rick's parents. For a moment, they all forgot about the guests. Life went on, it just moved to a new level.